Welcome back. It is time for another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague at Playful Humans. Find us at playfulhumans.com. How many times can I say Playful Humans? Tim Kroll is here. We're going to say his name a lot too because his website is timkroll.com. We made it really easy for you today. And he is a business strategist, team building expert, Lego expert. Actually, I should say Lego master. He was on the show Lego Masters in season 2. And we're going to talk to him about what it's like to play for a living and help other people rediscover the power of play for their life and business. It's all next year on the Playful Humans podcast. Here we go. There you go. One more woohoo, Tim. All right. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week this week is brought to you by a tractor. A tractor is how you get a country girl's attention. Okay. Which bear is the most condescending, Tim?
This is like giving me all kinds of office flashbacks. Which bear is best, Jim?
Panda. Yeah. Do you have a bad dad joke that
I got a terrible one. I got a terrible one. Nobody's going to laugh, but I do it specifically to irritate my kids. And so I tell this all the time. So why are elephants so good at hiding in trees?
Ooh, I don't know.
Well, have you ever seen an elephant hiding in a tree?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So
I like it.
Obviously, they're incredibly good at it. They can hide in trees because nobody's ever seen them.
It's got to be something to do with their trunk, right?
No, that's it. That's it. That's the end of it. That's why my daughter gets so irritated. It's because we don't see them. That's it. That's the end of the joke.
So let's start with the flashy part because you got some good press and some good airtime on Fox for Lego Masters, and you got to do that with your son, which is amazing. And it was right during the pandemic and everything. So there's a huge story there. How did you apply to be on the show? How did this come about?
We were actually asked to apply. So real brief, I'll shrink this down into a short story. My wife and I have always intended to be involved with our kids on what they were interested in. My second son, Zach, was very interested in building what's known as a mock. It's my own creation. The Lego word, we've got all kinds of acronyms, but a mock is my own creation. Started doing that. We displayed in Chicago, Brick World. I believe that was 2016. Endemel, who is the casting agent for Fox, contacted us, said to apply. First season, Zach was 17, not old enough to be on the show. Second season, we reapplied, got on the show. But we were asked, we had to go through all the same processes, but they sought us out to apply as a father-son combination to be able to build together on the show.
That is awesome. And I remember watching it. It was a great time and a really cool show. They did a lot of fun stuff with Lego. And since then, you do workshops and you help people think differently with the bricks and Lego trivia and all kinds of stuff. Did that come mostly from the show, or were you already using it in your work and life before then?
I was using it prior to that. The show is more of a platform, give me an audience to be able to see and kind of an expertise. And then you put on this title and a hat and all the other kinds of stuff that goes with it. But I had been doing a lot of that previously. To say it in a nice, brief kind of a nutshell, I've always been divergent from systems and from the normal world, right? And I have a degree in youth teaching, and it's on whatever. It's all this other stuff, the master's in leadership. And I've always hated when people just sit there and talk and teach based off of a curriculum. As a child, I was a C and D student. I didn't learn that way at all. I just don't. I have to do something with my hands. In fact, we talk about the playful thing. Even in school, I would always have something in my hands and playing. And you see, I'm talking with my hands. I've got stuff. I'm always doing something with my hands. I would get in trouble at school for tapping pens and flipping pens and doing all kinds of stuff. So I've always been divergent from that. And I found that as I teach and as I go through Lego, using Lego as a way to teach, it incorporates both the physical aspect as well as the mental. And I can break down barriers quicker than somebody that's coming in to try to do a teaching session on a healthy culture or how do we communicate better. I can just literally take away all those barriers, all those preconceived notions, all of the eye rolls that happen, and suddenly get down to the core of it. And then you get those aha moments of, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I was doing it this way, or I didn't know that this was the case, or there's all these kinds of revelations that happen when I'm doing that. I don't know if I answered your question directly, but kind of went.
You did. Yeah. I really love the Lego serious play methodology for that, because they explain in there that like most of our world is 2D these days. Like we're flat people on flat screens, working on flat monitors on our flat sheet of paper. And life is not that way. It's three-dimensional. And once you start looking at building bricks and other stuff, you're thinking in a different way, and you can see things from new perspectives. And then they actually have the 4D, which is when you add story and emotion to it. And that's what Lego is all about, is like, what do you build and what's the story around it? And how does it interact with other pieces and stuff? And it does get you thinking about things differently than in today's world. There's so much of like, what's the comms plan? How can we put this in a spreadsheet? How can we measure data and stuff? And all that's great, but you miss that 3D and the 4D aspects of it, which I think are so cool.
What I have seen in going and stepping into corporate, there is a time and a place for systems and procedures and documents and agreements. There is definitely a time and place. And I was actually listening to one of your previous ones. You talked about chaos and order and the balance between that. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. There is a time for order. There is a time for systems. But we often forget about this human touch, this human relationship of how we are all different and how we all interact with the world differently. And that's the EQ, or the emotional intelligence. So the IQ, I relate to systems, procedures, and just doing all of that component, which is all well and good, but we skip that EQ. And okay, well, great. I have got a list here of how to handle a customer complaint, but all the customer really wants me to do is listen to them. That's all they want. And we skip that part because we don't have the emotional intelligence training. And that's where the Lego brings in what you're saying, that 3D, that 4D, to be able to put all of that emotional intelligence together and learn. And there's a host of studies on emotional intelligence and the impact it has on dollars, on effectiveness, on production. I mean, I could list you a whole sheet of that kind of stuff, but there's substantial scientific proof that EQ is more valuable to an organization than IQ.
I 100% agree with that. And I feel like we could preach to the choir here and nerd out on this for a while. So I want to roll back a little bit and talk about you and your career. You mentioned the word divergent, and this is something that I'm passionate about too, is that in this measurement and all these systems, like if we're looking for people to be a cog in a wheel or fit in, it actually makes them less value. It makes them a commodity. So I'm wondering what you have found in your career, the value of being weird, different, divergent from other people that do. And those are my terms. I know you use divergent, but I like being weird because it makes me special in a way that is irreplaceable.
No, I completely agree with you. I would say this, there is a dark side to this, because when you don't fit, people don't understand you. They don't know how to take you. They don't know where to fit you into all of their proper boxes and squares, right? So there is a challenge. And I would say the greatest challenge is to be able to educate people to understand that there's value in differences. Now, flipping that, the thing that I have noticed the most is, especially, and so I'm going to paint with the wide brush, and I know there's going to be people out there that get mad at me, but I'm just going to do it anyway. The one thing that I've seen with our educational system is that it's memorization. It's a long list of do's and don'ts, and there's not a whole lot of room for creativity, especially for a young boy like myself that's full of energy. And you're telling me I have to sit in a freaking classroom from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I can't. I'm like, dude, I'm going out of my head. And I could tell you stories about that. But the aspect of, I was more equipped when I stepped into the world of problem solving, because I didn't always have a sheet or a system that said I could actually solve this problem, which then led to this aspect of where I'm teaching and using and saying, okay, how do I, as a consultant or as a coach, come into an organization? I can very quickly identify within an hour or two where your pain points are, but not every solution is going to be exactly the same. You've got different people, different circumstances, all different. And so how do we customize a solution that's going to fit that, so that way we can bring it all together? And that's where I feel like, again, the divergent, the weird, is because everybody's looking for a carbon copy, cookie cutter solution. And frankly, it's impossible to do. You cannot get a carbon copy, cookie cutter solution for every business in the world. It's impossible.
Well, yeah. And gosh, I love that so much too. The problem with roadmaps and solutions are like, you're not starting from the same place. You're not going to the same place. And if everybody has this map, the treasure is going to be gone by the time you get to that destination anyway. So it might work once, but even if we look at somebody like, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, well, you can't become the next, you can't follow their roadmap because they started in a completely different world, where these people didn't exist before either. So now we have a Warren Buffett. We don't need another one, but also he started decades ago when the world and the landscape was completely different and economics work differently than they do now. So to me, it's just fascinating. I think there's stuff that we can learn from other people's journeys, but we can't apply their model or their path to our life. It doesn't work.
There are aspects of it that we can, but there's aspects that we can't. I had a basketball coach at one time. He was teaching us all the plays, and this was in high school. He was teaching us all the plays and everything else. And he looked at us one time because we were following the play, learning the play. And he said, guys, if you're wide open underneath of the bucket, take the freaking shot. Well, he didn't use freaking, right, but he said, take the shot, right? And so what he tried to get across to us, and this is the same principle that applies, is these plays are coat hangers. It gives you something to be able to start to work off of. But if you see an opportunity and you're wide open underneath the bucket, take the shot. I mean, this is just a coat hanger that you hang the way that we're going to go through life. And so, yes, maybe we've got everything from Jim Rohn to, my goodness, Collins, and I could go down and list a whole bunch of other people that are really incredibly smart with systems and procedures. But if we think of that as its entirety, we're going to be missing the individuality. And so we have to look at that as a coat hanger that we're going to hang our lives on to create and craft our stories, because they're all going to be unique. And there's a special value in the fact that we are all unique.
I like that with the play. I think that's a really great example. And I always kind of think about structural, like tent poles or guideposts. And then the other important part is like vision and understanding who you are, your passion, your purpose, and using like where you're going and how you're doing things is more important than the what you're doing. So many people focus on the what and the task and like, what's my next, give me the next checkbox that I can check off. And it's, well, how are you going to do that? And why are you going to do that? Feels a lot more important.
I wish we had 3 hours to go into this. This is a complete teaching segment that I do specifically on the vision and the mission and how those things work. But let me just summarize in just a really brief synopsis of that, because everybody is born with personality, skills, talents. We all have something that we're born with. Then all of a sudden we have this thing called experience. It's life experience. You got family origin, you've got things that are happening to you, circumstances around you, and that now creates the world perspective. That world perspective now creates your passion, and you get very passionate about whatever projects or wherever you're at because of an experience. So you take your skills and your talents and your personality through this lens of experience. Now you've got your passion, and then the belief forms, and then the actions are taken. So they want to get to the actions, but they forgot that whole other section that was going on behind the scenes. And we focus on, well, you're not doing the right action over here. But what about the belief? And what about your passion? And what about the experiences? And what about, and all of that comes through, that creates that vision and the mission of how to be able to accomplish something, and giving you, at the end of the day, the purpose for life, the purpose to craft and create your own playful narrative and be able to incorporate that and become somebody that's truly unique.
So good. And I can tell you got a ton of passion around this. So I wanted to circle back again to your story, because I find these fascinating. And that's the kind of the point of this show, is like how people get to this point. You mentioned you weren't good in school. I'm guessing that's in younger, like grade school, high school, because then you figured out and got your master's in leadership. So at what point did school click for you? Did you realize that it was a game, or did you find your passion and that drove you to figure out how to make it work?
Question. That's a great question. So schooling was of no use to me. I still to this day look at that and I think this was stupid. I don't know why I went through that. And then honestly, for my bachelor's degree, same thing. I'm just like, this is dumb. I mean, I'm here. I'm like, why? What are we doing here? Well, I actually work security. I slept through the majority of my classes. Blah blah blah. Like it was just all dumb. Then I go out in the real world and I start realizing things are happening. And I can't quite equate some of the things from finances to employees and cultures and all these other things. And so I owned my own company. I did several different things within the sales arena. I did several things within the corporate arena. And then all of a sudden, this idea actually was a corporate. They said, hey, we'll pay for your schooling. I'm like, okay, I'll get a master's. So it was free. But the main thing was I went from being basically a C and D student without the experience, went through a lot of the experiences. And then in my master's, I missed a 4.0 by one grammatical error on a paper. And I got a 3.99 on my 4.0. And I was like, what? But it was because I was able to take all of those experiences and understand now the strategy and theory that they were teaching me in the master's program and how it practically applied. So I would debate with some of the professors and like, look, I've been down the road here. I have some of this experience and I know what you're telling me, but this is how it applies. And unfortunately, I feel like, especially in our culture, we do all of that prior to experience, and they don't know how to take it and apply it directly to their lives. So we need to have some kind of a balance, I believe, in our educational system between experiential, you've got to do it. You got to be on the ground doing it, which is, again, why Lego and why I use the serious play aspect. You have to be doing stuff in order to understand the strategy and theory so that you can cross that bridge between application and strategy. Too often we sit in one camp or the other, but you need both, and you need to combine that or cross that bridge to be able to get there. And frankly, the Lego workshop, the serious play methodology, that's how I cross that bridge, which frankly, I don't see very many people doing. It's just, like I said, it's a little bit divergent, and it's not something that's very common.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff to unpack there. I got several questions. First, I'll say I found all of that to be true. Unfortunately, you and I think, went to school before grammar checkers were involved. Otherwise, my GPA would have been
we didn't even have computers, man.
I don't know. I tested as dyslexic at some point in high school, but I think neurodivergent stuff gets a bad rap sometimes, where they're actually really like benefits and strengths. And so even the measurements that we're putting on some of these grades are interesting. Second thing was, you mentioned going back and forth between the careers. So that's going to be my next question for you. I have a corporate job. I get to be a sales coach, and it's really interesting with sales. And it ties into what you said, is like, would you rather have somebody that studied sales in a university for 4 years, or someone that worked in sales for 4 years if you're hiring them at 22, 24
Somebody that
years
worked in it.
Right? Like, I would rather have somebody that's figured that out. It's just not one where you can maybe learn all the steps, or you could learn philosophically what you're trying to do. And we train this. So I'm not against educating sales, but ours has to be experiential. We have to role play in class. We have to learn and practice and experience stuff to get better at it. Like our founder, David Sandler, wrote a book, You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar, by like sitting here and learning how to ride a bike. Like, you have to, in sales or riding a bike or almost anything else, you have to practice, fail, be bad at it first, and learn and grow along the way. So I love all that stuff that you just said, but I wanted to ask you about the difference. You mentioned owning your own business. You mentioned working for corporate. I'm sure you've had everything in between and these different jobs. What do you feel like are the benefits and weaknesses of carving your own path, whether it's with your career or with your job? And what are maybe the benefits of playing the game, climbing the corporate ladder?
It's a choice. At the end of the day, it's a choice. You choose what hard you want to do. You choose what game you want to play. And so I there's not a wrong answer here. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I am going to go into corporate because I'm passionate about it and I love this, that's right for you. Horrible for me. Or if
you want to get your school paid for, like, it doesn't have to be a permanent answer either. You can go get your school paid for, pay off your loans, get health care.
There's many different paths. Yeah, the biggest thing, and this is what I struggled with internally because I'm a Gen Xer. We grew up under that whole ideology of you go to school, you get a job, you retire from that one job. That's the way our parents taught us. And so for me personally, it was a internal battle of a belief system that this is the path I have to go. But yet everything in my nature and in my personality went divergent from that path. And so I was constantly fighting, or what really happened with me is I learned how to manipulate that system. So whether it was college, business, corporate world, whatever, I became very good at manipulation within that world. And then I realized at a later date how toxic that manipulation actually was and how toxic I was becoming. And so I was just finally like, I've got to put a hard stop to this, and I got to do some personal work and say, okay, all of these talents and skills that I have a choice now. I'm either going to continue to manipulate and do all these negative things, or I'm going to influence and go the positive route. And so my choice is to go the positive. I want to influence. I don't want to manipulate. I can manipulate. I know how to manipulate. And I'm sure you've taught that in sales. Like, okay, you got to be careful, because are you manipulating or influencing in your sales process? But that's the choice. And so my final answer to that whole component is the fact that you choose the hard you want. It's hard not to have stable income. It's hard to not know where your next paycheck is coming from. But there's a whole lot of good to it. There's a lot of freedom to it. There's a lot of ability for me to be able to create, have great conversations like this with you, see the light in somebody's eye when all of a sudden I just teach them something and it's like, boom. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. I can't believe. And then you get the reviews and that's all a high. But then you got to balance out with, shoot, I can't pay my mortgage this month. So what am I going to do? So that's a hard. Now flip that on the other side. You got a stable income. You've got a for sure, quote unquote, job, right? That's not even for sure, but that's a hard that you're going to choose. And you're going to go down that path and you know what you're doing from day to day. So you don't have as much creativity. So it really comes down to what hard are you going to choose? What path do you want to write? What story do you want to create for yourself?
What was the hardest part about making the jump from one to the other?
Scared to death, man. Scared to death. I think the biggest and the hardest thing, the fact is we all have other people in our lives. For me, it's my wife. My wife is very stable and she likes to have the stability. And the thing that really shook is I had a great job that I built a large company. It's called Sunfrog Shirts. I was making about 10 figures a month on sales because we built it to a multi-million-dollar company. And then the guy just pulled the rug out from underneath of me. And so I went from making 10 figures a month to actually having zero job. And then the corporation that I worked with, they sold off the division that we built over the 3 years to multi-million dollars in one component. And they sold that whole division off. And sorry, Tim, you ain't got a job no more. So she realized very quickly that this facade of stable work life in the corporate world does not exist. And I was going insane. I literally had resigned myself to the fact that I was just going to live out my life and work in the corporate. I'm grateful that it was changed, and I'm grateful God took me on a different path, but that's where I was at. And so there was a lot of internal process and growth and things that had to happen for a couple of years to get me to where I'm at. But you choose the path that you want to walk. You choose the narrative that you want to create.
I appreciate you sharing that for sure, because it's important for people to hear. And I think that's a tough one that you don't know. And maybe everybody kind of learned that lesson in the pandemic and stuff too, is like, there's not a whole lot of certainty in some of these certain career paths and jobs. And you might as well go have fun and do what you love. And like you said, if you love it, and then that provides you the ability to do what you love, keep going. That's awesome. Anything else that I should have asked you and didn't, or you wanted to share with us before we play a game here?
There's so much that I'd love to share, but at the same time, when I look at it, I look at the aspect that, yes, you have to be intentional, but we can have fun on our path to being intentional. So the crafting, the creating, the life that you want to create, you can do it, but we also have to incorporate some of that fun aspect and balance out some of those things, because it is going to be hard. It's definitely going to be hard. And I've got Lego all over my desk here. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere, so you can see it all. But
you do. I might be one of the few people that you go on where we can have a Lego battle.
I bet you I can beat you.
How many pieces do you have in your room at the moment?
We stopped counting pieces. We go by weight now.
There you go. That's a great answer. I probably have more kits. I think I only have one original creation behind me. That's this one over here. Got myself in Lego there. But
yeah,
you can see
a mosaic. That's an artboard. It's a beautiful one up there on the top left.
Yeah, the wider zoom is great. All right, you ready to play a game then?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to play Survey Says. Survey Says is like the very popular game. We surveyed 100 people, and the top 5 answers here on the card. Your job is to get 2 out of 3 of these right.
I'm not going to do well at this because I don't think like normal people. So go ahead. We're going to fail miserably. I can't wait.
Are creative. Name something a dog might have in its mouth.
A bone.
That's easy. Number 1 answer. All right. Name something a hospital patient likes to have nearby.
Decency.
What did you say?
I said decency. They want to get covered up.
Privacy. That one's not on there. You went sideways on that one. I appreciate the divergent answer. So it's all going to come down to the third one. We had a telephone, call button, the pain meds, the morphine button, family, or TV.
The morphine button. Yeah, click, click, click. My muzzle's not working.
All right. Let's see which one I should give you. Okay, let's go with name something a person owns that reflects their personality. What does somebody own that reflects their personality?
Their car.
Car, number 1 answer. There you go. Clothes, pets, house, watch, and furniture came in on the top list. And I don't think I said the other one. Dogs also have balls, teeth, tongue, and the mailman in their mouth. So there you go. You win. Congratulations. You win a free 30-second commercial. So thank you for playing. And then also you have some questions for us. So which would you rather do first? You want to tell us about what you have going on in your life, or you want to play a game?
No, I'll give you the trivia questions. This is something that I do when I'm teaching. And if I go up to an event, whether it's an MC event or I'm the main speaker, I'll do this as an introduction. So we can do that. You ready?
Yeah.
What does SNOT, SNOT, mean in the Lego world?
Studs not on top.
There you go. Actually, one of my answers here is slimy nose on top.
That too. All right. I got one.
All right. One you got. All right. Some of these are really, really hard. So I'll skip some of the super hard ones. And we're going to go directly to this. Lego is the largest producer of, and I'm going to give you a couple things: plastic, wheels, minifigures, and this is the largest in the world. Plastic, wheels, or minifigures?
All of the above?
No, there's only one.
Tires is number 1, right? Wheels.
Tires is number 1. Wheels, they are the largest manufacturer of tires in the world.
Yeah, that is amazing. Do you know who distributes the most toys in the world?
I don't know distributors, but I know who became the largest toy company in the world in 2012.
There you go. Was that Lego?
It was.
So McDonald's distributes more toys than any other company in the world. All right. So I'm going to give myself that one because I didn't know it was tires, but I was going for all of the above. Okay. Last one.
Okay, last one.
Third one.
This is a tricky one. The largest set Lego has ever advertised, and I'll give you some choices. You ready?
Okay. Is it piece count or size?
Piece count. Correct. The largest set. So this is a piece count. You ready?
Yeah.
Minions, World Map, Eiffel Tower, or Titanic?
I believe by pieces, and I did all 10,000 plus of them. It's the world map.
I said advertised.
Oh, advertised. Not sold as a kit. Huh?
It's Minions. It's the
Minions?
Yeah. April 1st, it was an April Fool's joke. They had a 5-foot tall Minion set that they advertised. So that was the largest set that they ever advertised. Officially by the one sold. Right. It's the world map. But
That was the one behind me. I think still currently has the record too, and it was released most
Yeah,
pieces.
it is officially the largest set by piece count that has ever been sold by Lego.
They're gonna push that boundary real quick, though. They like to set records. They like to make it, and then people that are collectors like myself have to get those kits. But I just got a new one. The new Galaxy is a new Lego artwork piece, so I'm looking forward to building that one.
I'm very You
do probably mostly make your own stuff there. But do you have a favorite kit?
Yeah, hands down, my favorite kit. Let's see if I can get it in there. Whoop.
Oh, the ship in the bottle.
This is hands down my favorite build ever, all time. I even was able to buy a light kit for it, and so I've got a light kit that lights up. It's actually right down here, but it's kind of all back behind everything. But that's my favorite set of all time is that one. And
why was it your favorite?
I do a lot of, when I teach, I use nautical as a way to teach and the North Star. So I use a lot of that aspect within my world of teaching. And so it relates to me. I feel like a connection with it. And the compass is part of some of the branding that I do. So it really, really connects with me on a soul level. In addition, that set, I got signed by all the Lego Masters that were on season 2. So that's another, that's a sealed set with all of their signatures. So
I saw the signatures. I was going to ask who was on that too. I get that question a lot from myself, and I struggle with this. Like, the map is cool and fun, but that many small pieces, like the Disney Tower, is the worst build experience on fun. I really love building Voltron. Voltron had some cool mechanics in it and a lot of colors and new gold shiny pieces and stuff that aren't any other kits. So that would be one of my top kits. But these days I forget. The R2D2 was great too over here. Super fun, a lot of moving parts and surprises in there. But I don't know. I'll have to find a new favorite.
So I got little stuff down here. These are all just little pieces that I have. This here is my little eagle. Oh, let's see.
Oh yeah. Nice.
So you got a little eagle. I got a little truck down. I dropped it. Little monster truck here.
To rebuild later. Yeah.
Little monster truck. I got a family of snowmen. Oh.
Yeah, there you go in the middle. Love it. All right, let's wrap it up here. And the website is timkroll.com. Tim does keynote speaking, team building activities, organizational development, and the leadership building blocks. You can guess the metaphor on that one. Tim, how can we help you or you help us?
I mean, frankly, what I'm looking for is people that are interested in being divergent in the way that they teach. So the way that people are looking at doing something completely different, I can give you lists of people that have recommended and testimonials because we are divergent and because we are so different. It just shakes up the whole world. So I'm looking at people that want to shake it up and want to be a little bit more risky, for lack of a better word, on how they're going to teach and implement some of the things inside of their companies.
I love it. Again, go to timkroll.com for more information. As for Playful Humans, if you want to rediscover the power of play as an adult, go check out playfulhumans.com. We have a playfulness quiz, which is awesome. 10 different playful personalities. You don't have to play like us with Lego. You can be an athlete. You can tell corny dad jokes. You can do social activities and play, or you can go out in nature or write and create and paint. All different ways to play as an adult, and they all have different powers and benefits. So go check it out, playfulhumans.com. Bye, everybody.